Today marks a difficult time in history. Today is Yom Hashoa, or Holocaust Remembrance Day. To pay homage to all those who perished during World War II, we sat down and spoke with Oscar Sladek, a Holocaust survivor living right here in Denver. His story is a reminder to never take each precious day for granted.
Just before noon, he ran into the cabin and said, "Get out of here, disperse, because we can see from up the mountain there are German soldiers coming up the mountains."
Oscar Sladek's tale of survival with his family in the Tatras mountains.
I told them, "You get into the cave and I'll be the last one. And before I get into the cave, I'm gonna cut down a couple of large branches of pine tree, and I'm gonna slide in the cave and cover the opening so that from the outside, if the Nazis walk around and they search the area, hopefully they're not going to see the opening to the cave." At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, exactly, all of a sudden we hear this shooting and a couple of explosions, and all of a sudden we hear shooting, "Raus Juden, raus Juden," which means "get out, Jews." Obviously the Nazis found the cabin, and they had everybody get out of the cabin. And all of a sudden, one of the young women who had kids started screaming, "Nicht schießen bitte, nicht schießen, kleine Kinder da." Means don't shoot, please, because there are little children here. I remember holding my mom's hand and we were shaking, because this were like our family now, you know. I could hear them talking to each other, you know. I spoke German already at that age, and I could understand they were talking about, you know, let's look over there, let's look over there. And I was waiting any moment that they're going to remove those branches and they'll find us, okay? So what happened that after a while, they walked away and they didn't find us.
It's been 78 years since a group of Russian soldiers liberated Ossie's family. It took several generations for him to tell his story, but he's finally put it to the page for future generations.
I didn't want to burden my children with what happened to me, even though mine is not a really tragic story, okay? I didn't lose my parents, thank God.
One of the best parts of Ozzie Sladek's story is how the community, not just of the Jews, but the non-Jews, helped him out and helped his family escape. And we're all very dependent upon allies. If we aren't all working together, I think we're gonna all have a lot of problems.
Right now, I have more reasons to talk about my survival, because a lot of people compare what's going on now to what happened in the 40s, you know, 30s and 40s. And I try to tell people you can't compare it. I mean, you know, there are many genocides in the world, have been, and there are, and there will be, hopefully not as many, but you can't compare one to the other.
We're so fortunate to have Ozzie and people like him in our community who can relate to us on what happened during their time, because there's so many lessons we can learn for today.
I always try to explain that there are specific reasons that caused the Holocaust, and there are other reasons now, because we have some people in this country who for some reason have too much hate in their hearts. The people who were persecuting us in Europe also had hatred in their hearts. But the fact is that many people who were good people, they were just brainwashed, okay?
Well, the nature of anti-Semitism is not just a reflection on what's happened since World War II and the Holocaust, but it's really a 3,000-year history. And it's been a history where Jews have had some measure of success, some influence, some affluence that's gone on. But unfortunately, it has always resorted in going back to very terrible times. So it's important to sort of understand that history of anti-Semitism, that no one just takes for granted what life is like in the United States this year.
At the end of the war, Ossie's bar mitzvah became a beacon of hope for the future of the Jewish people.
You have to understand that most of the kids perished. They were the first ones to be killed in a concentration camp. Most of my cousins died. Half of my family was murdered in the Holocaust. So it wasn't just my family there. So there were just people that survived, Jewish people. They heard about this bar mitzvah, that they called my parents. They said, "Is it okay if we come?" Because many of them lost their children, and they came to be present at the bar mitzvah, just the occasion. Here I am, I'm standing at the pulpit, you know. Most people were crying, you know. And that wasn't easy for me. So I got choked up and I stopped many times. But I had to do, you know, whatever I was taught to do. And I can never forget that.
Such an important and impactful story. Now to hear more of Oscar Sladek's story, buy his book Escape to the Tatras wherever books are sold. You can also buy his audiobook.